Welcome to DT Faye Podcast. I'm Kate.
I'm Elle.
And this is the second episode of the Spicy Girls Book Club. And more importantly, it's my birthday.
Yay, happy birthday!
Chapter 36. Jesus Christ.
Wow, you don't have to tell everybody. That was
I
brave.
know. Well, I'm a very young 36. I'm the baby in the room.
You do look, thank you, with me. You do look fantastic. I won't tell you how old I am now that you've put that
I look fantastic, but I feel like I'm breaking out in hives. Can you see that? I have like little red splotches. I'm pretty sure my Stanley Cup is like making penicillin.
Oh,
I
okay.
have to wash it.
So much information. So this week we're talking of Fate Inked in Blood, Book 1 in the Saga of the Unfated series by Danielle L. Jensen.
And this is probably, I'd say, one of my favorite reads of 2024 so far. Bride is up there. So last week we talked about Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and I really loved it. But this one is more, there's a lot more lore and world building, and they're setting us up for like an entire series.
I also love a saga. So like I really liked Bride, but I love when there's more coming.
Right.
And there's definitely more lore and world building in this one.
I loved the Norse mythology, the magic, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of twist, which is classic Danielle, our good friend Danielle. And there's also Bjorn. So
Bjorn.
Baby Bjorn. And I think that the guy in Vikings was actually, that character was called Bjorn, right? The one, it was like not the main guy, but he has a son who grows up, like there's a jump forward.
Yeah.
And he was in Hunger Games. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the actor Alexander.
Yes.
Something.
You want to say Skarsgård? I want to say Skarsgård. It's not.
Skarsgård.
But he also was trying to be a country singer at one point, and he wasn't bad. But like he's Canadian. And he was in Nashville trying to be a country singer, and he wasn't bad, but it was just like a very interesting journey for him.
Hunger Games, Vikings,
Hunger Games to
country
Nashville.
Music. Unexpected. Okay. Yeah, I really like Bjorn.
Did you
Bjorn's
really not
character.
watch Vikings?
No.
Okay, season 1 was very good, and it's sexy.
I feel like whenever it came out, I may have seen the beginning of it, and then I don't know. It was a while ago, if I remember correctly. So.
And there is a Skarsgård in it, but it's not the one you want to be in there.
It's not either of them. But I will say this story was good enough that I wasn't even that annoyed that it took so long to get to the spice.
And that is the highest compliment we can pay to a book. Kind of like Throne of Glass when we're telling people to read it and they're like, oh, what's the spice level? And you're like, it's not spicy, but it's good enough to where you don't need it.
And that's the thing. You can't say it's not spicy. It is eventually. She's younger when it starts. And
she's 18. Of course, it's not going to go
actually,
to a reverse harem. Is it?
I think
it's 17 when she goes into where she is, but then 18 by the time we meet her.
All that to be said, there's so much going on. You almost don't really notice that the spice is not heavy because it's so interesting. The world building, the characters. And eventually we do hit some spice. So like it's there. It's just you're not reading it for the smut value.
It's like, I mean, nothing about that book is innocent, but like the love itself, I feel like is more innocent. Like it gave me butterflies in my stomach whenever I read about them because it's just like I get giddy. I'm smiling.
That, but it doesn't like leave you there. That's not all you get, which is exciting. So before we get into the world building and the lore for this book, let's share this week's book rec.
And it is actually 3 book recs. It is from the host of the Thank God It's Fantasy podcast.
Ooh.
Kayla's recommendation, and this is not something I had heard of. It's The Rise of the Cinder Fae. Cinder like with a C. And it is book 1 in the Dark Hearts. I keep wanting to say Dark Arts. Dark Hearts fairy tale retelling series. It's a Cinderella retelling, and that's like the basis for the story, but there's a lot of differences. And this is what she had to say. Alora's home was taken over by the kingdom of Pumpkin Hollow, so fairy tale, and left in squalor. Their only real use is from the Cinder Fae that showed up 25 years ago and helped keep the kingdom warm by creating coal. Oh, cinder, okay. Alora has a special bond with the Fae as her dad was the air quote keeper before he passed. In a desperate bid to save her kingdom, Alora decides to make the Prince of Pumpkin Hollow fall in love with her. And she says, when I tell you the banter between these two is so good. True enemies to lovers. And a lot of these books labeled as enemies to lovers are more like friends or acquaintances to lovers.
Yeah.
So I love like a real enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
And it heats up and it gets nice and spicy, lots of twists and turns. And she said she can't wait for the next book to come out.
I'm going to have to add that to my list. I don't recognize it.
Oh, it's already on the my TBR is insane right now because we did that post giving away the gift cards to Sparrow and Wild, and to enter you like had to put an underrated book, and there were a lot of books I hadn't heard of. Like every time I think that I'm like, I've read fucking everything. Like, you know, when you start seeing all the book talk and you're like, I've read everything. There were a lot of books that I had not read.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
I love that for us. So Veronica, one of the other hosts, recommends Of Darkness and Ruination, a new book written by Rachel Fallon. So in this book, humans are enslaved to Fae and magic is dwindling. At the age of 21, all humans are auctioned off to their new kingdoms for the rest of their lives.
That's terrifying. Auctions are terrifying.
Awful.
But mostly because I'd be so scared that I wouldn't go for much. And like, how embarrassing if you're standing up there and they're like, $20?
Oh, what if nobody wanted you? How terrible. I have to go somewhere.
But then there's also, you know, being auctioned off would be terrible.
I mean, that's also it too. Most of the humans are complacent except for Astoria. She hates seeing the Fae and all of their excessive riches, their wastefulness, the cruelty.
They're probably all sexy.
Always. While the humans are left beaten, abused, and seen as lesser. Asteria decides to play the system while trying to hold her tongue because she can be feisty. And Veronica included a winky face with this. And Asteria is trying to find a way to gain her freedom. There is so much spice in this book.
4 peppers.
I would say Veronica gave it 4 peppers. The trigger warning page is lengthy too.
Which is a green flag. When I see a bunch of trigger warnings, I'm like, fuck yeah.
No issues here. But Bri and I finished it pretty quick, is what Veronica says.
And Brianna's?
I think Bri is short for Brianna.
Okay,
one of the other
Brianna's
hosts.
recommendation is Bonded by Thorns, which I believe you recommended one week.
Yes, I did reference it in the past.
Okay, it is an adult Beauty and the Beast retelling, but with multiple Fae beasts. Is it reverse harem?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also some polyamory.
Oh.
Yeah.
We love that. I hate when they're like, it's a reverse harem. We all take turns. What are we doing?
I'll just say something really raunchy about multiple holes.
Say it.
Keep it going. Keep it going, guys.
Okay. But what was the book series? This cover art was just like another series.
It looks very similar to a reverse harem you read.
I know. What was that called? It was like Nox. Oh my god!
Is it the phase that? Not the phase. The fate. The binds that tie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the cover is like the side profile of a woman's face.
That tie.
There's like flowers around it or something.
Yes, and that was reverse harem. And
didn't she say she started a little young?
It did, but then I think they took turns. I don't remember there being well, 2 of them were brothers, so that adds like another complicated layer because unless you're a Targaryen, incest is
everybody
not cool.
pause because the reverse harem I recommended last week has twins hooking up with her at the same time and she doesn't know who's who. It's hot and dirty. But anyway.
I think they call that the Houdini IRL.
It's not really Houdini because she knows they're both there.
Oh, okay.
Houdini's if like somebody slips in and doesn't tell. Sorry.
Wow.
Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. So their book recs. 2 we haven't read. One you have.
So I can definitely confirm Brianna's worth reading. I have to try out the other 2. Very excited.
Yeah. And also, if you have any book recs, like my DMs are always open. Slide in. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know what you hated. Like I want real reviews.
Yeah. If you didn't like it, we'll be honest about it if we discuss it. Okay, so let's get back to this week's book, A Fate Inked in Blood.
Did you read The Bridge Kingdom by our good friend Danielle?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Going into this, I was a little concerned because like The Bridge Kingdom is a beautiful story. I don't know if we've done that as a book rec, but we should. But that slow burn was like slow burn.
Yeah.
I love Danielle's writing style. So I knew as soon as I saw A Fate Inked in Blood when it was announced and I saw like the cover and the Viking and the Norse mythology, I was like, we're definitely going to fuck with this, but I'm concerned that it's not going to be very spicy.
Yeah.
But
we were wrong.
It
does eventually get spicy.
Yeah, The Bridge Kingdom eventually, it starts out a little YA, not as much. I don't know. I don't even know if I'd call it YA.
It's a little bit. It's slower. You're right. And I mean, this one is a little bit slow, but she really delivers with the tension, so it doesn't feel like it's that slow to get into the spice.
The
you know?
banter.
Yes. I mean, I love Bjorn. He's somebody that would crack me up, and I'd be like,
He's so sassy.
I know, but I would want to say dirty things back to
Right.
him, and they'd be like, no, I'm caving. I think
Well, and that's why it's so funny. Like, she gets flustered because she's, you know, until now led a
But
pretty
she says some
sheltered
raunchy
life.
things to him too,
Yeah.
though. That he's like, okay, I see you. This book has all of our favorite tropes: forbidden romance, bodyguard, forced proximity, and of course, insta lust.
Let's start with the world building. Obviously, a good amount of world building and setup, especially compared to last week's book, Bride. But like Bride, it builds on lore and legends that we're already familiar with. Most of us are at least somewhat familiar with Norse mythology and Vikings. There's even some pretty obvious Lord of the Rings inspo. And there's parallels to other books we love. I mean, several, but for me, especially from Blood and Ash. There's like a lot of parallels with that book.
There's also a pretty complex but interesting political / social structure and magic. I do appreciate some of the way she builds it, because even though I know some of the Norse mythology lore, there are gods she's talking about that I don't remember hearing as much about, or like what their magic really means. So
I know
it's interesting.
Like, we know the big ones. We know Odin, we know Thor, but we're obviously way more familiar with Greek and Roman mythology.
Well, we also hear about in a lot of stories that these children are basically like half god, like demigod, but that's not the way the magic works in her book.
Right.
So it's like they have the magic, but it's not because they're the actual children of these gods, which is interesting.
It is. It's very interesting. And it's interesting how they become children of the gods.
Yeah.
Our main character, Freya, and I am going to go ahead and apologize. I'm going to say Feyre.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't help.
Our main character, Freya, lives in a small fishing village with her husband. I'm going to fuck up all of the. Her website has like pronunciations that you can play, and I went and I listened to them. Don't remember any of it.
I know. To me, his name like Vraggy.
Vargy.
Okay.
Vraggy? Her husband. He has a drop of God's blood that gives him powerful magic over the creatures of the sea.
The people who I know, also, I'm going to try to say these, but I keep sounding out letters that I'm probably supposed to ignore.
Well, and you know, I don't want to flex, but I have been to Norway.
Is that why it's going to sound so good when you say these?
Well, the problem is whenever I say them and I try to, like when I say Jarl, I'm like, Jarl. Like I say it like the Swedish chef. I just automatically start talking like him.
I mean, that's better than what I've got for you. So the people that have a drop of God's blood are unfated, which means that no matter what the Norns, which I guess basically they're like the fates.
Yeah.
So no matter what they weave, the unfated, their destiny is their own. You can't predict it.
Yeah. And it can be changed, most importantly.
Yeah.
Children of the gods are created when one of the gods gift a child a drop of their blood upon conception. In some instances, the gods are active participants. Let's hear more about that.
Yeah.
In which case, a person would know their child's going to be unfated because, like, you just fucked a god.
Yeah, somebody was involved somehow. But they don't have to be involved in the actual fucking. It's more of a choice. So some parents will have no idea that their child has divine blood until the magic appears.
Back to Freya's husband. He saved their village from famine 10 years ago by opening up a Captain D's, but he's been riding that wave ever since, and he hasn't done anything since. Like, he has just been living on that goodwill.
He's also gotten so greedy and, like, arrogant about it.
But do you think he's sexy? Like,
No.
how did you picture him?
Ooh, I pictured him like a fat, greasy old man.
Oh,
that smells like fish. Why? Not everybody's sexy, Kate. I know you want them to be, but sometimes they're just gross.
No, you're right.
The only reason that he hasn't been shanked by anyone in the village is that he has the protection of the Jarl, which I guess is like their local, like, lord. And his name, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but to me it looks like Snorri.
I said Snorri. Snorri is a snore. But just for funsies, I was looking into some of these names, and Hiln, an important character in the story, appears in a poem, Poetic Edda, which was compiled in the 13th century from Snorri Sturluson.
Is it Hill? I couldn't tell if it was like Lynn.
Lynn? Do you not
Clint?
pronounce the H?
I don't know. I was like, Clint?
Clint.
That's not right.
We'll talk about Clint more when we get there.
So wrong. Sorry.
And back to what you were saying. I know. I hope Danielle's not listening. I'm going to be so embarrassed.
She's like, I told you fools exactly what it's supposed to be.
At least we know it's Jarls. The Jarls are nobles. They're essentially earls if you had to, like, compare them. In Old Norse, it means chieftain.
All right, that checks out.
The rulers of several of the petty kingdoms of Norway had the title of Jarl, and in many cases, they had no less power than their neighbors who had the title of king. So, like, it's important. It became obsolete in the Middle Ages and was replaced by dukes.
Okay.
Just like for some quick history.
That's
from someone who's been to Norway.
Well, because at one point when you read like the bio of the book, they say Jarl and King close to each other. And I was like, are these the same thing?
I have a feeling Danielle did like a lot of research. Like this is, and that's why I really like her books. Is that there's like a lot of thought and research put into it. Not that other authors don't do that, but when you're building a world,
yeah,
like
she
it matters.
Gives some like really good background, or they're just multiple day-to-day things that like explain what their lifestyles were like that I'm sure she did a lot of research on.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that she also, well, basically you can tell she did a lot of research into the history and the culture.
Especially
like everything
with the
Freya's
Vikings.
doing day to day when she's talking about rebraiding her hair. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And Freya's father died on her wedding night. So, like, that's a pretty bad omen.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. I don't know what else could be worse. Having to have sex with Braggy, I guess.
Oh, Braggy.
Huge bummer, especially because her mother and brother, they're such
rage
pieces of shit. And honestly, I know we're going to get into it, but like, it reminded me of another character in a book, and I cannot figure out.
Feyre?
I mean, definitely Feyre, the way her family just lets her take on everything.
Yeah, when she was out hunting and Elaine was planting things they couldn't eat.
Or just how her father just let her, and then how Nesta was spending all the money.
You know what? That's where we stop. The Nesta slander.
Okay, we know that Nesta has grown, but this was still.
Yeah, no, you're right.
She was a
piece of shit. They were all just riding Feyre's coattails.
There's another, maybe it's Poppy I'm thinking of. There's definitely another series.
Poppy for sure. That's what I'm saying from Blood and Ash.
The main character was like, okay, and like they're like, it's your fault. And she's like, I know. Like all the different things that happened, the character was like, I'll see what I can do to fix it. I'm like, why are we breaking our backs for these assholes?
Well, and I remember, I always get it wrong, like the prequel series from Blood and Ash, Fire and Flesh, Flesh and Fire, whatever. It's pretty much a mirror to that story, but she is also very like sacrificial for her family.
Yeah, she's like the whipping boy.
Right.
It's wild.
It's just, I would feel so much rage, and maybe this is because I don't have a family, but I was like, fuck them. Like, I don't care. Like, when he's using them of like, well, I guess if you don't come with me, I'll kill your mother. I'd be like, I dare you.
Well, just even like with Vraggy, it's like, but honestly, it's the same thing that happened in Bridgerton, and like basically women's place was just be married off to take care of your family. So as much as it sucks for her, I don't think that was as much about her as like any female that can marry well. Like, you're going to be used so that you can bring in money for your family.
Well, and from the first time we meet her mother, she's telling her like, you need to be grateful for your husband. And her brother's like, don't piss him off. But it's all for their benefit. Like, he doesn't want to be kicked out of the raiding party. And the mother doesn't want to like stop getting money for new clothes and shit.
Yeah, somebody else is
Who
taking
cares
care
about
of her
your
farm.
happiness?
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's honestly, that was women's place a lot in the olden days. It was like, okay, you've got an ailing mother, your father is dead, the estate's falling apart, you're gonna have to marry well and deal with it.
At the very least,
wild.
In the year that they've been married, Freya hasn't been cursed with a kid, which is probably thanks to her begging her goddess namesake every month to keep her womb empty.
But also, like, I wonder where she heard about like lemon and sponges.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because
around.
Did you watch Boardwalk Empire on HBO?
No.
There are scenes, I can't remember the season, but he finds her in the bathroom and she is like squirting lemon pledge up there. So this is something that women used to do.
I do. I've read other like romance novels that are like Harlequin romance novels where they are doing something with like brandy and sponge. Like basically they're trying to use alcohol.
That would burn so bad.
I know, they're trying to use alcohol or something to like douche the area.
So wild. It's something women have been doing for a long, long time.
Yeah, pretty impressive. But also just the way that her brother was like, don't piss him off so I don't get kicked out of the raiding party. Like, AKA shut up so that he can take care of me.
He's clearly not very good at what he does either. If you're just going to get kicked out.
Well, that's the best part is like, I've earned this place here, but also don't mess this up for me. Yeah. Wait. Have you earned it? Or is it because of me?
Yeah.
Which one? Make up your mind.
I feel really sorry for Freya, but it does eventually get on my nerves because she allows herself to be treated this way.
I mean, to be honest, it's so sad though, because like I can see and frustrating, but, like, I can see why she's mad because, like, what else is she gonna do, though?
Right.
Like, her family needs to be taken care of. She's gotta eat somehow. I don't know. It's if only it was so easy as, just protecting your
Squirting lemon
womb.
pledge.
Yeah. Poor Freya.
Praying.
She's just because eventually he's gonna catch on something's up.
Mhm.
She's just
I think that's
miserable.
what's happening in this moment.
Yeah,
But yeah, she is miserable, like,
and
every day.
until this alarmingly attractive stranger walks out of the fjord.
Bjorn!
Fjord, I got that one.
And we don't know who he is yet, but Bjorn is described as tall, broad, a handful of years older than Freya's 20, with black hair, shaved on the sides, which, I fucking
Sexy.
love that. It's very, Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, but also he's got long braids. So, like, it is, like,
Yes.
sexy
And the rest is pulled
Vikings.
into a pony with tattoos, high cheekbones, green eyes, no shirt, water dripping down his muscled torso.
Like,
And
did
he's
one of
just
the
like
gods just
walking
pop up?
I know.
What
That's what
happened?
she's like. Oh my God.
She's like, "Shit." Freya's like, like, "Shit," but also, "Are we being raided?"
Yeah, she's like, oh shit. Then like, oh shit. Are
Do
we
I
being
panic?
I know it'd be like, oh no, take what you have to take.
You can have
I
some of these
can't
fish.
fight back.
So many fish here.
Skaland. I guess that's how you say that. It just reminds me of ska.
I was gonna say
Remember, like,
Skaland,
ska?
ska? I don't know. Yes.
Ska, where Freya lives, is divided, and one of the other territories is Nordland. Nordland?
Nordaland? I don't know.
Nordaland.
Nordaland.
Ruled by King Harald. King Harald actually was a Norwegian king, the first, and he's still like a big national icon, but he also could have been a myth. Regardless, he's an important figure in Norway, and the current king is also named Harald.
Oh.
I don't think he's doing very well when I looked at his Wikipedia page, so like prayers for Harald.
Oh. But Bjorn is not a raider, or he is, but he's not there to raid.
He's here to flirt.
I mean,
he is flirty.
He jumps in full on immediately.
I mean, yeah.
But then he's also immediately like, "Where's your husband? So I can kill him and we can fuck."
I'd be like, he's over there.
He's in town.
In flashbacks, we learn Freya has a secret her father told her she had to keep, and she's been living with it this entire time.
Yeah, and that she's also always wanted to be a warrior like her pathetic brother is now, so she could join the raids.
Jarl Snorri is there to speak to Freya's husband.
Great to know he's here. And Bjorn is there with Snorri, not just a member of his party, but his son and heir.
And we will get into those fucked up family dynamics, because it is very fucked up. They're all LOLing at Freya, which I do not appreciate. Yeah, like she wants to join the raiding parties, and they're all like, "Oh, cute."
They all kind of like come at her out of nowhere, like, "Don't, excuse me."
It escalates fast.
Yeah, and then they're just like teasing and laughing at her.
But she was taught to fight. Like, her father, Eric, was a fierce warrior in his own right, and she can hold her own at least. So she's not, it is one of my biggest, I don't know, not pet peeves. Something that annoys me in some of these books is when the women are truly helpless, probably because I'm projecting of like, I am helpless.
Well, she's not prepared to like go into battle, but she is prepared if somebody attacks. So like her individually, she can like try to take care of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Geir, I guess is how you say her brother's name. Geir, her brother. He's like, Frey will be focusing on making babies, not fighting.
Fuck off.
Like,
gross.
So desperate for Raggy to keep taking care of his mom so he doesn't have to. That's what it is. He wants to keep his riches instead of taking care of his mother. I mean, and even if this is what Freya wanted all along, it's clear that her husband and the Jarl have a separate agenda.
He wants to end the marriage, and he wants the Jarl to witness it. So like she's slowly putting it together of like, oh my God, this is a setup.
It's not the end of the world, but it would be for their community. She'd be like a shunned woman, and then also somebody still has to take care of her mom.
Yeah.
Snorri tells Bjorn, also a child of the gods, to test her.
Bjorn has a drop of tear.
I think it's tear.
Bjorn has a drop of Tyr's blood. He's the god of war, heroic endeavor, and justice in Norse mythology. I just looked that up. And when Bjorn says, Tyr, I wonder how he says it. Tyr.
Just like that.
An axe made of fire appears in his hand, burning hotter than natural flame.
Bjorn doesn't want to do this, especially when Snorri says it's to the death.
Bjorn immediately calls out what's really going on. You want me to murder this woman so this piece of shit can get a new wife.
Dang. The first twist is revealed during their fight. Freya is also a child of a god. I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong. I don't know if it's Lynn or Hlyn. She, Hlyn, sorry. Hlyn, she says, right as Bjorn is about to strike her, protect me. Silver light covers her shield and throws Bjorn with enough force to split a tree.
She is the shield maiden, just as her husband told Snorri. This was all
That
a
piece
setup.
of shit. How do you know?
I know. Freya got played, and now her secret is out.
Yikes.
So let's talk Hjorn.
Okay.
Hlin. However, you know who we're talking about.
You guys probably can say it better than we can.
Most scholars think that she's Frigg. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm laughing so much. Most scholars think that she's Frigg, the wife of Odin. And just a little fun note, Friday means Frigg's Day. When I looked that up, I was like, oh.
Okay.
Anyways, Frigg is most often depicted as Odin's wife, but sometimes that role is given to Freya. Also interesting, the group of gods that Freyja, which is Freya, belongs to is the Vanir.
Oh.
They're also, yeah, you know how
we know
talked
that
about,
term.
We talked about like the origin of Vanir and then the potential like, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Of like the fight with all the gods. It's the
Ragnarok.
Yes, Ragnarok. That possibly being another book of SJMs eventually. But they're all referenced in that poetic Edda that I talked about earlier.
But it's not, sorry, it's not just that our Freya is a child of the gods, a minor god at that. Snorri already has his son and his skald, Stenoon. I don't know if it's Stenoon. She is gifted with the ability to transport listeners into a song with her story.
Into a story with her song.
You know what I mean? Same thing. Her song gives you a story, a visual.
It's her prophecy that makes Freya special. Nearly 2 years ago, a seer told Snorri a shield maiden. I don't know why I'm laughing.
Stop looking at me.
Would unite the people of Skaland under the rule of the one who controlled her fate. So now it's like everyone is going to want to be the one controlling her fate when really she's unfated. So I don't know how they're not putting it together.
I know.
No one can control her fate.
I know we're going to talk some shit about Snorri, but like, God, this guy is just like wildly delusional.
He is a fanatic.
He is ridiculous. Snorri thinks that with Freya, he can become king of all of Skaland. And what better way to control her fate than as her husband, because she's a slave? If you're her husband, like what?
I guess.
That's a little bit intense.
And he's already married. But now it makes sense why Freya's father told her not to tell anyone about her blood because, you know, he worked for Snorri at one point.
Yeah. Well, just anybody is going to want to have her.
But he would have probably, like, in being part of those raiding parties, he probably learned about the prophecy.
Oh, yeah. The most important thing to remember here is that Freya is unfated, so fuck what that seer saw. Doesn't matter.
You are not going to believe who the seer is. Bjorn's mother. And there are a lot of twists when it comes to that.
Yeah. On the plus side, Freya is so pissed when her now ex-husband tries to take Geir's little girlfriend that she grabs the flaming axe and flips it end over end into Raggi's skull.
She may or may not have some rage issues, and we're going to get to those reasons eventually, but in my reread, I was like, oh, we're already kind of starting to see that
she
rage.
has a lot of impulsivity, and when she's angry, whether she's influenced or not, she gets a little bit belligerent.
Right, and it's satisfying in this circumstance.
This moment I'm okay with.
But it's satisfying that that happened, but also her hand is like burned off. So they have to get to Halsar, where the Jarl lives, ASAP.
The Jarl, by the way, is a total zealot. He's like, ooh, this is just like the prophecy. Literally, it honestly reminded me of Game of Thrones. Speaking of, like,
Yes.
I can't remember which season it, maybe season 6 or 7. Whenever we start to see the priests, that everything that happens, they start twisting and manipulating words so that it follows the religion in some way. Like, he's literally just like anything that happens, he's like, okay, how does this work for me? Okay, it's wild.
They ride to Halsar, where Freya meets her sister wife, Ylva. Ylva? What did you say?
Ylva.
Ylva? I don't know.
I don't know if I'm right either. I just, in my head, it was Ylva.
Snorri's wife.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
Ylva is a vulva. Sorry, it's not funny. It's just the English translation. Not great. Ilva is a vulva, a witch capable of runic magic, which she uses on Freya.
She vows to serve no man not of his blood, which is fucking dumb on Snorri's part because he has male.
Have you never dealt with the Fae? You need to be very specific.
Yeah. And I mean, think about who else is included in that no man of Snorri's blood.
I mean, it includes his son, Bjorn.
Halsar is like immediately attacked, and it's not riches they're after, it's Freya.
After the attack is the first time that Freya sees a figure wearing a hood with smoke coming from them like they're on fire.
You know what? That's even more confusing now that we know what happens at the end, that that person is not dead. We need to come back to that because who's this figure that she's seeing?
Well, and even if it is that person, maybe this is something that they can do with somebody with God's blood that may just be part of their magic.
I don't know. But Snorri is even more worried for Freya after the attack. He's not actually worried for Freya, but he is scared of someone taking her because he believes that having her is going to get him the crown. So he assigns his son, baby Bjorn, to protect her.
Baby Bjorn. Cue the Bodyguard soundtrack.
Exactly. I was like, come on. And Bjorn knows a little something about being held hostage. He was taken by King Harold of Nordiland as a child, and his mother was burned alive during the kidnapping, allegedly.
Awful. Horrific.
Important to note is Snorri didn't try to save his son until after his fire magic had manifested because he knew he needed fire of a god to find the shield maiden. So like really? His son was taken and he was kind of like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But then when he found out his son was a child of the god, he was like, oh, fuck, I need to get this guy because I have to find the shield maiden.
I mean, there's no familial love here. You could, at one point, you could think that maybe he's trying to please Ilva because this was an indiscretion when Bjorn was born, but like, he just doesn't care.
Well, it was
unless
first.
It affects
like
him.
She came after.
No,
Bjorn's
they were already engaged when he had the indiscretion with Bjorn's mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's like why at one point when Freya makes the blood oath, she's like, again, sleep with like something about sleep with another woman again.
I will say I was very happy with the way they handled him being faithful to his wife, if for no other reason than I did not want a rape scene.
That, but it just like
because she's already had an entire year of having to sleep with her husband.
It's not like it gave him any kind of honor or dignity. It just didn't make him gross.
Yeah.
You know, like, because you heard so much about the Vikings pillaging and raping in like mythology.
Yeah, she
like,
went light on that because I think there was a lot more violence.
I'm okay with that because I can't support reading that.
Like if it's if they look like Bjorn and they're coming out of the fjord and I'm like, oh no, don't pillage me. That's one thing, but in reality, it would be absolutely horrifying.
Well, one of my favorite scenes is actually with Freya and Bjorn on the path to Helheim.
Me too. I really liked it. It reminded me of the dead men in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
You're talking about?
Yeah, in the mountain. The green guys.
Yeah.
the oath breakers.
Dead men of Dun.
The Dunharrow?
Dunharrow? Something like that? Yeah.
But yeah, they're the oath breakers that are punished even in death.
And when the golden cup is like bouncing down the steps, making so much noise when they're trying to be quiet, like that was some Pippin shit.
I mean, that, but it honestly also made me think of The Hobbit and Smaug.
Yes.
Like when he's trying to find the, whatever that diamond is. And like he accidentally kicks something and it like rolls down the rest of the coins and the dragon's like,
it's classic.
I'm listening.
But it just reminded me of that scene, you know, when Pippin
throw yourself in next
time.
Fool of a toque.
And just because it's interesting, Old Norse, how would you say that?
Okay, I'm sure it's wrong, but I was like, Draugr?
Draugr? It's defined as a ghost, spirit, dead inhabitant. So it's very similar to Draugloon, the first werewolf in Lord of the Rings, because it means blue wolf in the elven tongue. And I just, like, all these things are connected. Again, we were talking about, you know, like all the different influences. There's no way you're writing fantasy or fantasy romance and you haven't been inspired by Lord of the Rings,
whether you
by
mean
Dune,
to or not.
Or
well,
by
there's
George
certain
R. R.
like accepted lore, but like the elven tongue also has runes. You know, it's just so much that overlaps there.
It's like the more you know. I also think this scene might have included some hints or foreshadowing for Freya, like how the dead responded to her. Like looking back, I'm like, okay.
Some of the moves she makes at the end of the book, and I'm like, you didn't think this was going to happen? Like, don't you remember what happened in the mountain? Like,
Right.
geez. Bjorn and Freya make it to Faltender. Yaltender?
I guess,
Fjaltender.
wait, what?
Maybe it's Fjaltender.
If it's fjord, it would be like fjall.
Fjaltender.
Okay.
Where King Harold and a warrior who is a child of Thor also are.
And Freya thinks that she sees her sister wife talking to King Harold, conspiring to kill Bjorn and get her son from spare to heir.
There's also a little spice.
It reminded me of From Blood and Ash because they have to pretend to be making out to hide, but then it, of course, like
I feel like
evolves into something.
That's totally a trope, actually, in several stories where they're like, "Oh no, I hate
Someone's coming. We have to kiss.
We have to hide." Love that trope.
It's actually one of my favorites.
Oh shoot, there's another book series I recommended where they had to do that. Ooh, oh god, what was it? I'll have to get back to you.
Something I read.
It's where like I forgot what the silent death or something, and he's a fae with wings, and he comes to an island of humans.
Oh yeah,
and
okay.
He takes her back to
someone's prisoner.
I can't remember.
Okay,
but anyway, sorry. It's very similar. Like he has to suddenly like pretend they're having a thing to like protect her. Like, oh, I hate it.
Oh no,
I love the little bit of spice. It's another one of my favorite scenes when all the gods show up during the ritual.
I think I really like that scene too. The ritual, like everyone's high off their asses. The gods circle everyone and they have like their crime hoodies on.
Yeah.
And they're holding torches with silver fire. And it was just when I was reading it, I was like, this is cinematic.
I LOL'd a little bit when she was like, are you seeing this too? Is it just me?
I know. It's like, because everyone's high.
Yeah.
The takeaway though from that entire scene is Freya is important enough that all of the gods are watching. And they're testing her, which I think is kind of stupid. I can't tell what's a test and what's not because Snorri will be like, you're being tested by the gods.
Anything that goes wrong, it's a test. Like, calm down. They
also refer to Freya as a child of two bloods.
I mean, it's pretty fucking obvious. Two. It's pretty obvious what's going on, but they're like, oh, yes, because she's mortal and God. Two blood. Like,
I'm so proud of you for the two, like wrestling two.
I've been forced to watch so much WrestleMania with Kate.
She loves WWE. We had a wardrobe malfunction this past week. If you want to Google it, or maybe you just want me to send you a picture.
There's a ball that pops out that she showed me up close and personal.
It was LA Knight, and he wears his little panties when he wrestles, and it was out.
Ball. Although, yeah, I can't even like go there. It was so much. But anyway,
I don't know if they've taken it down, but I have a screenshot if anybody's interested.
If anybody needs to see it, a ball. Nobody's seen those before. Anyway, her being of two bloods is really obvious. So it's interesting the way that they're like, oh, yeah, God immortal. Then everybody that's unfated would be like that dumbass.
It's so dumb.
Once again, while Snorri is putting his supposed fate first, Halzar and its people pay the price, though, which was so sad.
Well, and he claims to be doing all of this for his people and to unite everyone for his people. But it's like, no.
You know what? Sometimes we have to suffer losses to win the war. What?
That was convincing.
Yeah, thank you. Do you guys all agree? I mean, it almost makes you wonder if he has some kind of persuasive power because immediately he starts saying things and these people that are grieving start like chanting with him, like, yeah, we'll do better.
Well, that's just mob mentality. Because even Freya, there's some points where he's like,
she's feeling
blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, yeah, she gets hype with everyone. And
she does.
Like, girl.
Yeah, a couple times.
The only one really is Bjorn. Bjorn is like,
who is eating up this bullshit? Like, come on.
Right.
But anyway, back to that sprinkling of spice. That was a pretty good sprinkle.
I liked it. She confesses what happened between them wasn't nothing, even if it meant nothing to Bjorn, because of course she's the FMC, so she thinks that he was pretending and doesn't care.
That was a little bit after.
Yeah. So that happened at the top of that mountain that I cannot say the name of.
Oh yeah, because they go back.
And later,
all the bad things have happened at Halzar, and they decide instead of rebuilding because it's not in a very safe position, they're gonna take over Grindel.
Mm-hmm. We haven't left for there yet, though.
I feel like they're doing something like she's training with Bodil or something.
Bodil.
I know when they have this moment because like she's been kind of mean to Bjorn. Mm-hmm. It just was one of those. I'm like, why? She's being
both of them are just so oblivious to the other one being attracted to them. You know,
like I mean, Bjorn has been very, like, at her side, even when she's a bitch, he's like, "Let me take care of you while you fall face first in your vomit."
Mm-hmm.
And she's just, like, got all this attitude, and she's been mean to him.
Yeah.
And here he is, because I think when they have this conversation, she's wandered off and done nothing to protect herself, and he's like, what are you doing?"
And that's when she's like, I mean, it meant something to me, even if it means nothing to you. He literally said he would follow you into Valhalla.
I mean, like, yeah, he's done everything he can to take care of you, whether he said the words or not. But, it wasn't respect for his father that Freya felt pressed between her thighs.
Yeah, because she's like, you're just doing this, because your dad has made you. And he's like, is that what you felt pressed up against your ass?
Do you feel it right now? The thing?
Bjorn admits he wanted her from the first moment he had eyes on her. I want you now and tomorrow and all of the tomorrows.
Wow, that's a
big, it's a good
step.
line.
Yeah. Freya's scared of Snorri finding out and hurting her family.
Again, fuck your family.
I mean, like,
fuck your family.
There's a difference in, like, people being assholes and not talking to them versus, like, them all being slaughtered because of you.
Their entire lives. You find out from the moment of her conception, they haven't given a fuck about her.
Yeah.
It's
I would
always been about themselves.
totally be her, because even though people don't deserve it, I'm like, yeah, but should we kill them? Like,
no, I would
the
be
one on
like,
the other side, like, but
no, not me.
I mean, it's basically Bjorn has been saying all along after seeing how they treat her, just fuck your family.
Right, exactly. Like
why are we worried about
team
them?
Fuck your family, but then also he has a fucked up family, so I don't know.
Yeah.
As they're crossing a mountain to attack Grendel, or it's not a mountain. It depends on who you're listening to, Freya or Bjorn.
I don't know why that's the hill he wants to die on.
It's the mountain. Freya gets frostbite.
I mean, not that it matters, but, like, how come the children don't have frostbite? Did she just forget to put on layers of clothing? Why is she the only one?
No, it's because she falls into the water, remember?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing
like
she's walking
she was already kind of
wet
getting
socks.
cold too. I don't know. So naturally, though, to fight the frostbite, she needs body heat.
In Bodil's armpits.
I mean, it's so gross, but, like,
gross.
It's a hot area to warm
Well,
those
when I
toes.
read it, I first was like, gross. And I was like, actually, that's a really good idea.
It's smart.
Uh-huh.
Because usually, like, to fight hypothermia, everybody has to get naked, but don't get naked with Bodil. Gross.
Right. Gross.
No.
But also she gets to wake up in Bjorn's big muscled arms.
Yeah, wrapped up in blankets with him. Okay.
Well, I do wonder if whenever they talked about, like, waking up in someone's arm, is your arm just, like, underneath that person and they're using it as a...
Anytime I've cuddled with somebody, like, before we even fall asleep, they're like, my arm's asleep, get off. Yeah, like, that's never been a thing.
They tell you to get off.
Yeah, they're like, I gotta move my arm. Yeah, like, we'll still cuddle, but, like, I can't sleep on your arm. Your arm will fall off.
No, and I sleep on my face, like I'm on my stomach, so, like, it does not work at all. I also get hot at night. I want to be alone.
But not if you have frostbite.
Yeah, frostbite.
This is the one time you need it.
That would be so hard for me because I'm like, I can't sleep. You keep moving or breathing. It did give me Freya and Rhys in the inn vibes. This scene in which I'm talked about several times. That is one of my favorite steamy scenes because sometimes a really well done steamy scene is better than a spicy scene.
Well, the steamy, I mean, it's spicy too, though. The inn is steamy for its own reasons, but also this one, because people are around them, I feel like that's another trope.
Yes.
Like, it's very sexy. You
and
gotta
it's
be
all
quiet.
about the woman. Take what you need. Use me.
Yeah.
Take
care of her.
I love that. And there's the added tension of wanting someone so much. Like, it's taboo because this is her stepson. Let's not talk about that, but it is.
Is it really your stepson if you didn't consummate the marriage? You did make vows.
I don't know. We'll go with no.
Okay. A lot of questions.
But yeah, it's also what you were saying. I love the trope of we have to be quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, I already am quiet. I don't make any sound.
I'm not going to answer that information. That's for me to know.
I should.
After you spill your guts.
You might be like, are you still awake? And I'm like, I'm awake.
For you?
I just give myself an ick if I make any sounds.
It's okay. Everybody's going to be comfortable in their own space.
So you're loud.
We don't have to talk about it. Anyway, most importantly, it's one of, if not the first time in Freya's life that she does something just for her, that's something she wants to do because she wants it. She's not worried about anybody else at this moment, which is
you
good
are
for her.
Mine, born in fire, even if only the two of us know it. He has several very good lines.
It's another, like, trope claiming me, like, I am yours. Okay, thank you. Well, once the fun's over, the next day they arrive at Grendel, Although she's a child of the gods and she's been training with Bodil, Freya has never actually fought in a war, and she's got frostbite on her toes.
Yeah.
On her tootsies.
And it's not the tootsies. It's her first shield wall, and I don't know why. I was looking into shield walls, and it is only as strong as its weakest shield. So you have to keep your arm up and in the exact right spot, because if you're even a little off, there's holes for arrows.
Yeah.
So like, first of all, upper body strength.
It's also like dominoes, because if you trip or fall into somebody, everybody goes down.
Well, and you're usually, in battle, you would be like walking over. It's not going to be a smooth surface. So you're trying to like stay level, but added pressure because her shield is keeping everyone else's shield like protected because she's using her magic on top of it.
She messes up the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's just I mean the fact that she keeps it up for as long as she does is actually impressive.
Yeah, I don't have any upper body strength.
Well, I would like check my phone and it would fuck it up for everybody. Like I can't.
Well, I'm surprised that she's the only one that trips, because with the bodies that are on the outside, eventually people are going to be tripping, like that would be me. I would hit just like a dirt hill and whoops, there we go. Sorry.
Bodil, by the way, and I'm sure we're not saying that right. It's a Latinized form of an old Norse bot remedy and Hilder battle. And the latter was a Valkyrie who had the power to revive the dead in battlefields.
Wow.
So I wondered, I wonder if she's dead. I mean, I think she is, but I don't know. When I looked up her name, I was like,
I do love the stories like of Valkyries. Anytime we've had them in stories, like, so cool. Bodil goes down and Freya is activated.
I was watching a lot of Bravo when I was doing the outline, and Lindsay in Summerhouse, when she gets drunk and mad, they're like, Lindsay's activated.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, whatever is happening with Freya, she is full on. She completely loses herself to the bloodlust.
It's bloodlust fueled by her grief and anger, but also her guilt. And so her eyes fill with crimson and smoke. And Bjorn looks at her and he's like, ick.
I mean, all of them are like, whoa, what happened here? They take over the fortress, and thanks to Freya's terrifying performance, Jarls are starting to swear oaths to Snorri.
Jarl?
Everyone... What did I say, Jarls? Jarls? Not my fault.
Jarls are swearing oaths.
God. We're in the deep south.
Everyone is scared of her now, which is not great, because it's one thing if they respect her, but they're just scared. And it doesn't help when her shitty brother calls her a mad bitch.
I mean, I was going to lose my mind after everything that she's done for you,
right?
You dick. And you're so desperate for like your own pride and renown that you put your wife in the middle of this. What is wrong with you?
Well,
You're going to war.
The only one who is fighting for Freya, that it cares about her, the only one that's ever fought for her is Bjorn. And that kind of makes this ending that much more fucked. When you see that he's been, playing her too.
I don't know. Honestly, though, like, I know we'll get to it. I didn't feel that betrayed at the end.
I felt very betrayed.
I mean, he's trying to pull her out of a bad situation, but she's very stubborn and doesn't want to hear it. So that's the other thing is...
He didn't try to tell her, though.
He didn't, but like, the opportunities when she asked, how he felt about living in Norland, he could have taken more opportunity to like... make the people sound good so that like she... might understand where he's coming from.
And the stuff about his mother.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
He just hit a lot of stuff.
But Bjorn fights Freya herself for Freya. He's that wrathful part of her. It's taking control more and more.
Yeah, like it seems to be the only one. He's the only one that can like bring her back, like calm her down. What does that remind me of?
He's also like Aelin and Rowan.
Yeah.
Like when she's deep in the magic and he's like kind of bringing her back to earth. Or like rooting her back in.
No,
present.
You know what I was thinking of? Nesta wearing the mask.
Yeah, also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for memories of or thoughts of Cassian, kind of like bring her back. But I mean, like, he's also the only one calling on her bullshit. Yeah. Everybody's afraid of her, and he's the one who's like, "Your eyes are red. You're crazy right now.
You look insane." But the fact that her eyes are red, it doesn't make sense to her. Like, it doesn't make sense overall. And they've all already somehow forgotten about the Two Bloods thing. She's the daughter of a lesser known goddess. Like, why would her eyes be red and she's filled with rage?
But like literally no other gods change the eye color. Like Anybody
It's
else that has to
almost like
drop
she has the blood of 2 gods.
but I mean, that's just it. Like, Bjorn's eyes don't change color when he
Mhm.
calls tears fire. So, like, why nobody's asking questions? They're like, also, she's a shield maiden.
Mhm.
Lynn protects. She's not ragey out killing everybody.
Right,
So,
and
like,
well,
why are they like, oh, it's Lynn? No,
there's
it's
only
not.
one person who might sorry, I keep burping. There's only I should well, what did we eat? The Cheetos? There's only one
Yeah.
person who might know what the fuck is happening, and it is somebody that we hate.
Which it makes sense that she thought of this because I didn't initially when she was like, how do we figure this out? Freya and Bjorn ride in secret to ask Freya's mother because
And
obviously she should know.
well, and that bitch has a brand new fit thanks to her daughter's status. Like she opens the door and she's wearing like the latest linen fit
Yeah.
that you've seen on TikTok,
And
and you're
she's
like, wait a minute.
this bodyguard, for whatever reason he's there, she's like ordering him around.
Yeah. So
Like
she's
very like, I'm fine.
excuse me?
All that Freya has done and sacrificed for her, and she hasn't even been honest with her. It wasn't Hlyn that she and Freya's father took into their bed.
Gear, her brother, was a sickly baby, and when a woman appeared at their door, they thought their prayers were answered. The stranger, a god, would help their son in exchange for a gift to lie between them, and whatever their fuck sesh yields, they would sacrifice for the health of their son. So they're like, okay, for our son, we must fuck.
But I mean, like,
this stranger.
It would still be yielded to her or whoever this person is, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
Man, Gear would never recover if he learned that he was a sickly baby. He's already got pride
How
issues.
embarrassing. But it makes sense, you know?
Yeah. And when this couple awoke, the god was gone. And so was Gear. A different woman actually returned the baby who is now healthy.
Congratulations, you played yourself. I remember when I read this, I was like, oh, fuck, it's Loki. Like, this sounded like some Loki shit.
It's every story of a changeling with, like, Faye that you've heard. Like, the baby disappears. So I was like, oh, God, is it really Gear?
I had that thought, too.
But then Lynn is like, I'll make you a bargain, grow the child, my vessel, and I'll give you back your son.
If the child is a bitch, her words will be curses. If she's cool, she'll be super powerful.
Doesn't make a ton of sense.
I was like, I mean, they worded it a lot more like fancy, but that's basically
But even like the altruism, I'm like, so you're saying she'll sacrifice herself?
Yeah, great.
I don't know. She chose her son over her daughter from the very beginning, and she agreed to allow Freya to be Hlyn's vessel. Also, if Hlyn is a minor goddess, how is she getting this baby back?
I don't know.
Like, I feel like they'd be like,
I have
shut
a
up,
lot
Hlyn.
of questions.
You know, I don't feel like they would like respect her, but
it really, all it comes down to is this is her mother's fault.
Yeah.
And she has the audacity to judge Freya. She's like picking up something between Freya and Bjorn. And she's, of course, worried about herself. She's like, well, don't fuck it up with Snorri. Like, have you seen my new clothes?
But also, like, don't embarrass yourself, sweetie.
Yeah.
It's wild. Freya finally snaps, seeing her mother and brother for the selfish assholes that they really are.
But then also it gets used against her. Like, she does and she doesn't, because there is at least one more time where she's self-sacrificing for her fucking family.
She's got a lot that's like tearing her in both directions. And like, she has every right to be angry. Marrying her to Vragi, being perfectly content with her being taken by Snorri, and now asking her to give up the only thing that she's ever wanted, Bjorn.
Bjorn, like me, is assuming that Freya is going to take this opportunity to run. They can escape. They can, be like Lorcan and join the fucking circus. Like, go, just like leave.
Before we get to the end, though, each time the Bjorn's like, we'll just run. I'm like,
where did he want to run?
Not that I know him that well, but it also felt weird. I'm like, we'll just leave and be farmers all of a sudden. Like, that's not.
It's romantic.
But that's not. He's a warrior. You're just going to go farm all of a sudden. We're just going to like give up and say fuck it to all these people. It just feels weird.
Well,
not that I know his character, but it feels kind of like I would ask questions.
I do wonder, now that we know what his ulterior motives were, if when in the timeline when he's saying we should run, he was actually going to deliver her to Harold.
No, I think when he really
wanted to actually run.
Oh, like when it changed.
Yeah,
because I think that he always wanted to run with her, but like once he really felt a connection to her, I think that he was like, I have to get her away from everybody that's trying to use her.
Yeah,
like, I don't know. I feel kind of bad for him because there's never going to be
a male sympathizer.
I'm giving everybody room. Okay. But also like considering how like belligerent she gets when she gets angry, like there's no easy way to have a conversation with her about any of this. But also Bjorn, in a good way, he's a little bit like Reese, where he's always giving her room to make her own decisions. And he
Right. I
knows, I
got
mean,
Reese Consent King vibes of her.
I really appreciate that because everybody's always taking advantage of her. He's giving her a chance to choose for herself.
I do, but then he's also not being 100% honest. So it's like, is she being able to make her own choices if you're not giving her all the information? For starters, there was apparently more to Bjorn's mother's prophecy about Freya.
Yeah, you're not telling me enough. But also, there are other options here, whether it's going to Norderland, like you still could have explained what I'm looking at instead of just hiding me away and telling me nothing. That's bullshit.
But yeah, there's like this is when it slowly starts trickling out the information that he's been hiding.
Yeah, so the truth is going to start coming at us hot and fast. I mean, the fact that there's more to the prophecy from his mom, it's not good.
No.
His mom said that the Shield Maiden would unite Skullland, but the tens of thousands would be left dead, and that she'd basically be a plague who everyone would fear.
Oh, and her mom is shot with an arrow.
Yeah, Feyre's mom. R.I.P.
Freya.
You know what? We did so good.
It's Freya's because mom. We were talking about Reese, and now we're talking about Feyre.
Sorry. Freya's mom is shot with an arrow.
After she immediately gives up information because they're like, where's Freya going? And she's like, that way.
I loved this though because what was her name? Not Skade?
Yeah, the Scald. I don't know.
But anyway, whatever, whoever she is. She was like something about a mother who immediately like betrays their child. Kill her. I was like, nice. Somebody should.
My little chicken cutlet just slid off.
Hope everybody saw that. Okay. But you know what? Also, the only person that knew that they were going to go see Freya's mother was Ylva, right?
There's definitely a traitor, but it ain't her sister wife. Nope. Yeah, sister wife.
But you know what? Whether Bjorn knows the truth or not, he makes a lot of valid points.
Yes.
And this whole next scene where she flies off the handle and like rushes back to get Ylva, I'm like, it's cringy.
I was already so annoyed, but by then I was like, fuck, you deserve whatever happens.
I mean, like some of it is stupid. The voices whispering in her head, but like the belligerence in it is like kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway, before they can get to the bottom of all this, Norderland forces arrive and they demand that Freya be handed over.
For once, Ylva and Bjorn agree that this is not a fight they can win. Like they're looking out over King Harold's forces and they're like, oh, there's like, we don't even have a chance.
Snorri has taken this blessed by the gods thing way too far. Like blessed by the gods means that I have power. It doesn't mean they're going to like cater to me, like do everything I need.
Well, and also how many people are you willing to lose for this? Like, are you going to be ruling over a land of dead bodies?
Yeah,
you know?
He doesn't even care. He's like, she's blessed. It's the end all be all. Actually, it's not. That doesn't put food in your mouth. It doesn't keep you from frostbite. It just means that you have magic. You have to choose how to wield because I'm not fated.
Both sides have children of the gods. So like,
yeah,
everybody's blessed. Like, everyone's hashtag blessed.
Some really big magic going on here.
The one that's blessed by the one that's a child of Thor. Yeah, now that's cool.
And her shit is terrifying. Snorri is he's completely delulu about everything that's happened in this book so far. And Freya finally sees that there's really no reason for a battle because they want her. And she's not going to fight for anybody because it doesn't matter where she goes. Somebody's going to try to control her. And innocents are going to die. Well,
and when they were already on the run, that would have been a better time for this epiphany.
But like, also you can't run forever because they're always going to hunt you. Like, I don't know about the next book, but I really hope that she finds a way to stand for herself and become her own powerhouse.
Instead of running.
Yeah. Once again, sorry, my screen did something funky.
Her fucking family
her fucking family ruins everything. Her brother's wife, Ingrid, has been taken. And then Garrett's on the ground crying. And he's like, oh, but come on, she's pregnant.
That's not my problem.
Like, and your dumbass brought her to the front line of a war.
And like, Harold is already there. That child of Thor that we were talking about, who we thought had died, but is still alive.
Because that blast that hit her shield seemed like it ricocheted, but they're in some big trouble. Harold positions himself as maybe not the villain after all. I mean,
he's an interesting character.
Well, it doesn't take much to sound more rational than Snorri because he's like a zealot who's like spouting off weird shit.
I bet he's more attractive.
Harold is probably like, okay, you just hang yourself with whatever you're saying and then I'll step in.
Is that I know it was like a Norway a Norwegian king myth, whatever. Is King Harold, that's from the Bible, right? That's like the king?
Yeah, I think when Jesus is,
Yeah.
uh,
Anyway, sorry.
yeah, that he's like having them kill all the firstborn
Mhm.
sons.
Okay.
No, I think it's Herod, not Harold.
Yep. Nope, it's Herod.
I was like, that's not
I
right.
really thought I did something there.
Would have been great with these names, though. Harold is hoping to avoid the fate that Bjorn's mother saw and to save his people from Freya and the destruction that she could bring.
But also, like, how did you know what his mom saw? You know, there are some
Yeah.
little connections that I'm like, how do y'all know each other?
Well, I guess because Bjorn had been there, if he wasn't afraid of him, he could have shared this information.
Well, and
Or maybe
speaking of his
everybody
mother,
knows.
it wasn't actually Harold or Snorri who killed her.
But before we get that whole backstory, Freya literally yeets herself over the edge of the wall and runs.
What does that mean? Is it a very low wall?
I don't know, because then she also like falls into like the ditch where they've got corpses, and there's also like I imagine, what's it called? When they have like sharpened pikes in the ground. Like
Oh, yeah.
all these things that I'm like, that seems like you barely made it out alive.
Yeah.
But somehow she just rolls around.
She just like keeps
Rolls
going.
through it. I mean, it's
My ankles would snap.
yeah. I get what she's doing, because the only way that she can see this situation not ending with like Saga's vision is if she takes herself out of the equation.
Right.
I mean, it's the only way to not only change her fate, but to change the fate of all these people, these innocents that are right here.
Well, and Bjorn is, like always, right on her heels, because he's like, where you go, I go. And where they go is chasing waterfalls.
Bjorn also knows her very well for how little time they've spent together. He's
Right.
immediately like, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that the Spectre tries to stop Freya from killing herself.
I'm so confused by the Spectre based on what we find out at the end. Who is this?
Yeah, maybe we were just misled since she's the only one who can see it. Maybe it's somebody else.
I guess.
But, you know, if she's the one who saw Freya causing so much death and destruction, wouldn't she want her to kill herself?
Yeah,
if it
exactly.
Is, Bjorn's mom.
That's what I'm saying.
So it can't be Bjorn's mom then.
It doesn't make any sense. The silver lining is everyone sees them go over the waterfall, so they're presumed dead. So, like, this is the fresh start that they've been wanting. Like, they can actually start over. They can leave, and, like, Snorri is not going to kill her brother and pregnant sister-in-law after seeing Freya die, like, you know, quote unquote, in battle.
She's
like,
not a traitor anymore
because
because
your chance.
she was killed on the field. Yeah. But also, like, now Leif, the younger son, can be his heir, the legitimate heir, and everybody can just calm down. And nobody's going to be looking for them.
Like, sure, Jan.
Bjorn says some very pretty words, but fails to mention some very big truths.
But it reminded me of we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
Yeah.
Because she really, in that moment, lets her guard down.
She really is like, oh my God, all the potential for this future.
This is someone that finally wants me for me. Like, doesn't want to use me. Like, this is someone who loves me. So that does actually piss me off when I think about it.
Well, and I don't think that's totally wrong. He just doesn't give her all the facts when it's like, oh, I'm sorry, did my little woman brain can't handle, like, tell me everything. It just drives me nuts. Anyway, they come upon the ruins of a burned out cabin, and we finally learn what really happened to Bjorn's mother.
A man came to the cabin, and in a panic, Bjorn lost control of his fire. His mother died, air quotes, and he woke up in Nordaland.
What about the man?
I don't know.
What about this man?
Like, what about the man? There are some things that, like, I wrote some notes that I was like, am I missing context clues of who that man was and who the Spectre is?
I mean, they make it try to seem like it's Harold. Oh, like Drew Blanken's name.
I guess.
Because, like,
but then they were fighting. Like,
right, because, well, as soon as the man comes, he blacks out and then he's in Norland with Harold.
Yeah.
So it seems like it would be him.
I guess.
But
I will say this scene had one of my favorite micro-tropes, and it is the hot tub. It's a large steaming pool. In this instance, it's a large steaming pool in a flooded cave. Sexy. You know, you could put some string lights in there. That would be so sexy if you're into that sort of thing.
And who isn't?
Some other books that have this micro-trope that, like I said, is one of my favorites. What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods, From Blood and Ash by JLA. That's probably one of my favorites. But yeah, there's a lot in this book that reminds me of that book. The Witchwalker series, I think it's in the second book, City of Ruin, which gets a lot spicier. And Kingdom of the Feared. Do you remember that one with Wrath?
Yes.
And Slaying the Shadow Prince has a good one. And then, of course, our heart, Zodiac Academy. Remember that one with,
Um,
I won't
also
say who.
also, the recommendation one of the recommendations we did earlier, the Beast of the Briar.
Oh, does it have?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
There's,
I love it.
Beast of the Briar, side note, there's, like, a little castle, and each wing belongs to a different prince, and, like, it's a different, season. So in the spring quarter, they have, like, an indoor sauna pool type thing.
Nice.
Anyway.
I love that. Like, I didn't until I was making a list, I was like, "Oh, shit, this is actually in a lot of books, and I love
Because
it."
it's so sexy, you
We
can't
love
turn
the
away.
micro-tropes. There's a lot of it in this. Also, like, the having
Actually,
to use each other for body heat.
well, also speaking of Zodiac Academy, Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, the prequel series, there's a hot tub scene.
Wait, where?
It's with Dante and Leon when they're first mated at
No, I don't
Dante's
remember
house.
that.
Oh, you're lost.
Oh! No, I do, like, at his family's vineyard or whatever?
Yeah, at his house.
Yeah, okay. I do remember that. Nice.
Freya really lowers her walls in this scene, and she lets herself be vulnerable with Bjorn, which makes what happens next even worse because she's finally like all in.
Right. Well, everyone has lied to Freya. They've manipulated her. They've used her, and she thinks I've found the one person who is honest with me, who loves me, who just wants to be with me because they want to be with me with no other motives.
Which is so sad because I think by the end he really does want to be with her,
Right.
but there's so many other things he left out that now it looks like it's all a lie.
And a couple of really big things happen right at the end of the book, setting Danielle up to dunk on us with a cliffhanger.
One, King Harold of Norderland is there to fuck shit up.
There were so many hints to Bjorn hiding something, to there being more to his relationship with the Nords, but it doesn't make this suck any less. Like, I saw, these twists, you can see them coming.
I don't think that I necessarily saw to this extent, but when she starts to question things about him, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of been odd. I would have been questioning why he suddenly, this powerful man who's literally gifted as a warrior by the gods, just wants to run away. That would have been my first question.
Right.
But
He just wants to be a farmer.
now that it's really happening, she's like, oh, wait, as I think about this, I have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I had to choose between King Harold and Snorri, I would still choose Harold all day. Snorri sounds insane.
Right. And I think that Harold has better intentions. It reminds me of the ending of Fourth Wing, which makes me wonder if there's going to be an Iron Flame like loyalty switch when Freya learns more. Like, I think that Freya has lived a pretty sheltered life and she doesn't have all of the facts. She doesn't have all the information. So I think that the side that she's fighting for could change.
I think a lot of betrayals like this, like they're not a complete betrayal, but it's enough that it's shocking. Like, that's happened in so many series. It's a good cliffhanger because you're like, whoa, I need to really rethink what's happening here.
Right.
My heart broke reading all of this. Right after she was so happy, she's finally with someone who wouldn't use her, wouldn't lie to her. Like, she has a whole new lease on her future and they want the same thing.
Well, and this is when there's another twist that you can see coming, but it is very fun.
Especially seeing how the dead listen to her.
Freya curses them to Helheim. Is that how you say it?
Helheim, I think.
Helheim. And Hel says, bet. Roots explode from the ground and start wrapping around everyone, literally dragging them to hell. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Drag them to hell?
Yes.
Well, there was a really gross scene. But if I had this, anytime anyone pissed me off, I'd be like, well, I guess you should go to hell.
She's literally already made use of this power, so I don't know why she would willingly say shit like this and not know what she's going to do. Like, she acts so, like, shocked that she did something to kill all these innocent people. What's wrong with you crazy person? Like, I'm sorry.
I mean, she didn't know that, like, she could literally send people to hell. That hasn't happened before.
Yeah, she did it in the mountain.
No, she just had control of the dead. Or, like, they listened to her, kind of.
No, she sent them to hell. In the mountain with the dragger?
Yeah.
Yeah, she called them to hell.
I guess she didn't know that she could do it with alive people, maybe.
It's probably the fact that they're alive, and also that was such a traumatic time, but it's like she just gets so angry that I'm like, oh, wow.
Well, and it doesn't help that she has 20 years of pent up anger.
Yeah.
And it's all coming out.
I mean, she has a right to be angry, but like, even just saying those words, I'm like, that feels like a jinx. Even if you didn't know you had the power, like, I just wouldn't go straight there.
But how many fights have you had where you've been like, go to hell? I wish that Roots would pop up.
It's just something like, drop dead.
Drop dead.
I
Well,
don't know
that
if
would be worse.
but that's literally what she said to them,
Mhm.
and then she's like, "Oops, it happened." That's weird.
Oops.
I don't know why the rest of them are surprised, though, because she was literally said by the gods that she's a child of 2 gods.
Child of 2 bloods.
They told
literally
everybody.
said that, but I guess, again, that they thought that meant god and mortal, even though there's plenty of people with god's blood and mortal bloods that aren't called 2 bloods.
Yeah,
But
I guess they were like, "She's just a shield maiden. She can't hurt me. I'll
yeah.
control her." Like, they should have been a lot more afraid of her from the beginning.
She was underestimated.
Yeah. Well, at least it's confirmed Freya is Hel's daughter.
Hence her need for eye drops when she gets big mad. It's all making sense. It's a little too late when Bjorn tells Freya to run. Like, he has this crisis of conscience. Like, I don't know. I don't know when he flipped of, I don't want to give her to King Harold.
Yeah.
Because that makes me question King Harold. I'm like, he really must be not that good of a guy.
I don't know if it's like that he thinks she'll be mistreated so much as like now that he cares about her, he's tired of other people affecting her fate for her. Like, they're constantly like using her
Right.
and manipulating her emotionally, which thank you for caring, but like you could have talked to me
It's
like a person
too little too late.
and discussed all of this.
And he tells her to run, but she is knocked the fuck out by that little singing bitch that we haven't talked about that much because she's just been kind of like in the periphery, but she hasn't.
I was a little hurt because I thought that they were starting to build a friendship, but like back at
I
Grendel,
did not trust her.
Well, at Grendel, like when Freya's upset about seeing herself as a monster and Steinun is like, "You are a monster." I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, we can't trust her." That took a turn.
She sings it. She's like, "You are a monster."
Now everybody knows.
Interesting to note that only those with magic survived Freya cursing them to hell. Tora, Skade, Bjorn, and Harold?
Yeah, what kind of magic is that?
Exactly. I have questions about Harold. Like, I have a lot of questions about is he like actually a good guy and we just don't know him or his side yet? What magic does he
I was
have?
gonna say, we didn't see him do anything. Like everybody else, like Bjorn called Tyr, Tora called her magic
They
for
can like
Thor.
jump up on. He was just like jumped up on a rock.
We didn't see him do anything with magic. So
Right.
what does that mean?
I don't know.
Freya wakes up on a boat on the way to Nordland, and of course, fucking course, her escape plan is jumping overboard with her hands tied together. Like,
You're
no
not
plan.
gonna get very far, girl. You've been working on your upper body strength, not your legs.
But it's like everything she does, somebody has to save her from herself. So like, God.
And Bjorn does save her at least, and he's trying to explain like, I was never a prisoner of King Harold's. Like, it was actually Snorri who tried to kill his mother, tried to kill both of them. So I guess Snorri was the man.
Yeah, but like, when you saw me like seeming to be interested in what Snorri had to say, even if I make my own fate, give me some more information.
Like, how embarrassing is it knowing that he had to watch you be like, yeah, like when everyone got hype?
But also, like, you knew this. You could have told me this without telling me that you were working for Harold.
Right.
Like, I could have made some more informed choices. But it's interesting that Bjorn says they escaped.
They escaped. Because
Bjorn's mother is alive.
And so is Xaden's, probably. That's like a theory that I have. There's a lot of Fourth Wing parallels in From Blood and Ash, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I love those books, but there were a couple times that I was like, oh, this reminds me of this. But yeah, his mom's alive.
There's some similar tropes in these series.
Who is the Spectre?
It could, I don't know what her magic, Saga's magic is like. Maybe she is the Spectre.
But she was on fire.
Also, if the only person that can see her is Freya, it could be one of the gods. Like, nobody knows what all these other people look like.
Yeah, I mean, she's connected to hell.
Unless she was to see Saga and see that it's not the same person, like,
either I'm dumb or it's not answered. I put that in there because I was like, maybe Elle figured it out and I'm just stupid.
I don't think that they discuss it yet.
Okay.
I think she's got too much else she's like trying to sift through.
Okay.
So the book ends with Freya on a ship bound for Nordland.
And Bjorn has a lot of groveling to do.
I mean, and the thing is, if Freya would take a deep breath, she could start using some cunning to like work this for her benefit. But she's so angry right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I anticipate a lot of groveling. Freya being super angry and aggressive at first, maybe a while. Then getting to know the Nordlanders and realizing that she was on the wrong side all along.
That's exactly how I see it going.
Yeah.
Like, literally like Iron Flame. Like, getting to know the rebels and being like, oh, shit.
It's also like Akatar. Like, Rhys is not the hateful enemy. Oh.
Is he not? I'm just kidding. I know a lot of people sent me comments being like, "What's your problem with Reese?" And I'm like, "What is my problem with Reese?"
Look, things took a turn in that last book, okay?
I either like, a character either dies with me loving them or they live long enough for me to hate them.
I know, there can only be so many books.
What's wrong? But we will have to wait until spring 2025 to find out what's next. I know. But while you wait, check out our House of the Dragon ramblings basically every Sunday.
Woo-hoo. And we're starting our Throne of Glass deep dive next week with chapters 1 through 10.
I'm so excited. Bow, 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 bow.
It's time.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, guys.